Okay, I am recording the class, and there's a few reasons why. And do me a favor, Mara, if you could close the door, please. That'd be great. Nora, humor me for a second by sliding. First of all, yes, sliding a bit away from the two other ladies with your desk. Is someone dying in the hallway, or what's going on? What's happening? I don't know what's out there. It's a lot of noise. Okay, I want to quickly talk about my email from yesterday and what this means. And of course, if you can see, I don't know. There's Aurora's here, and then everybody else is here too. And I'll do attendance in a second. Petrie's going today. While I'm talking, Colin, if you could kick that PowerPoint to everybody, and then we'll get started with that before too long. I do want to do the following. After I talk, and yet again, Allie's late. And Petrie, you were late too, by the way, so we'll yell at you later on.
Mr. Becker?
Yeah, what do you want?
I posted my presentation because I thought I was today. I'm on the 14th. I can take it down, but I posted it already.
Okay, did you? Yeah, I was gonna say, did you maybe? Oh, you posted it to class because I don't remember.
I posted it and I shared it with you, but I just posted it like 15 minutes ago, maybe.
So then, yeah, let's get those up.
Okay.
When I'm done talking, we'll do the two presentations, and then I want to give time for people that have questions about the essay due today. It is Wednesday, and that's due at midnight tonight. I want to talk a little bit about how I'm grading it, because that's important. Remember, in case you didn't realize this, we have some absences right now for whatever reason, whether it's Morgan turning dogs to sausage or supposedly Colin Flickham was going to be here today, but he said in case to record it. I do want to know if he's found butterscotch pudding at whatever college he's looking. Do we know where he's going? Where he was looking? Probably some artsy college. All right, says the conservative Republican in the room. Very nice. Anyway, let's talk. So yesterday we got another email. So you might remember my email from last week to you where I said, hey, we have to get ready for Blackboard. I'm still waiting for a couple things to get taken care of. I didn't forget the Blackboard thing. But so yesterday, Mrs. Cook sent an email to all teachers. So this is UPK through 12. Girls, listen, please. This is UPK through 12. So in a second, while the presentations are going, my phone's over there to record time, I'm going to be keeping track of seating charts. It's going to take 2 days. It's going to take today and tomorrow. Now, I'm not telling you where to sit. So I want to be clear about this. You remote people, you can sit wherever you want, but I'm going to ask the following. And as seniors, I know you can do this. I'm going to ask that when I take a picture of the way you're seated today, I don't want you to move. This is not for substitutes, although that helps substitutes. We're being asked to give that picture, I'm actually going to type it up, but we're asked to give that picture to the administration, and here's why. We have no COVID cases, but in case something happens, this would supposedly allow for better contact tracing. So if, for instance, the conservative Republican Mara Hovey ends up having, hi, I don't know what Allie's doing. No, put your hand down, Allie, get you in a second. I don't know why, there's nothing to have a question about yet. But anyway, if the conservative Republican comes down with COVID because she refuses to wear a mask, because that's what the conservative Republicans do. If she does that, then we can be like, all right, who else was spending time with a conservative Republican to make sure that we can put all the conservative Republicans on a bus and punt it in the ocean? That's actually what, no, all right, I'm kidding. I'm fully aware I'm being recorded. We're not punting anybody into the ocean, maybe Caleb because he's a redhead, but besides that, that's what it is. So I'm doing this today in a bit. It'll be seamless. We'll be working and doing stuff and has nothing to do with, it won't affect class, but I am taking a picture and then I'll type that later. The same tomorrow. So tomorrow when you get here, please make sure you sit wherever you want, but that's your seat for the time being. So this isn't like playing games with subs, which by the way is always fun, but lately it's not as much fun to play games with subs, right? It's just not that fun anymore. It's a decades-long tradition of just harassing substitutes as much as we can. But sadly, we need them to come back. So harassing them anymore is just not that fun. Anyway, so that's what's happening. Again, no problems, nothing's wrong, but that's a request of the administration. So of course, we're going to follow that. We are going to make sure we take pictures of that. Colin is normally here today, or he's not? He's normally with these guys, right? He's remote guy. Okay. Right, and I know you're right. And I know Izzy, by the way, Izzy's not here either. She had her doctor's thing. She was not sure if she was going to be here or not. And I also don't see a request from her. There we go. So, is there, I saw Allie had a question. Is there a question here? I thought I saw a hand up in the back over in the corner. You didn't have your hand up? She's stretching. Very good. I see Morgan's back from killing Sarah's dogs. That's very nice of you. So Allie, why not, Allie? What's your question about seating charts? What do we got?
So are we not switching between the red and blue seats anymore? We're just sitting in the same seat?
You are sitting in the same seat. So, and that's okay, by the way, that doesn't really change anything. The reason you are in that seat is because I know, for instance, they came in red, and did you come in when there were still students in here? All right, by accident, they chose the right seat, so that works out. So where they are, by accident, and remind me tomorrow when you guys come in that I'll make sure you are seated in a seat different than the 8th graders were in. Anyway, so I still have a chance to clean the desks. That's not an issue. I'm glad you brought that up. I actually forgot about it, but we got lucky in there, seating in the right spot. So I think that's the end of the seating chart things, questions or whatever. Any questions from anybody else about that? Okay, I'm not going to spotlight Aurora's outfit, but I want to share with you that the juniors were doing something called Ashton's House of Fashion. So Ashton Munson every Friday has to wear something from the Lost and Found box, just because why not? The pink sweatshirt over here, he wore as slippers because it's a size 6'7" toddler girls, and Ashton Munson isn't going to wear that for many reasons. So anyway, it was slippers. This Friday, however, is special, and you guys know the wearing the scarlet letter thing. The juniors are wearing their scarlet letter either Friday or Monday, because of course the different houses, or Ashton has to, because he's going to be absent, is wearing his Wednesday. So feel free to torment them, harass them. You have my permission and blessing. If you see a junior, you know who they are. If you see one wearing a letter, torch them. I mean, whatever you want to do is fine. Obviously, do not inflict literal physical punishment upon them, but shun them as you wish. I do have an email out to many of the staff members. Cafeteria, they should be sitting by themselves, preferably isolated outside. In fact, I actually didn't want them to be allowed to eat, but they have to eat. Stupid. So whatever. Stupid rules, New York State. Anyway, now I want to stop talking so we can begin presentations. Do you have, I guess, Maddie or Colin? Does anybody care who goes first? Or Maddie, yes, you care, don't care? Maddie,
Go second.
Colin's going first. You volunteer. Thank you. Very good. So now, all right, I'm going to get prepared here. I'm going to get my phone and start that going. I have to look at Maddie's on my iPad. I don't remember seeing Maddie's, but if you could right now, pull up Colin's. Let's do that first, because I do want to mention something quickly. I kind of cautioned everybody just a smidgen yesterday because of the presentation yesterday, but it's worth mentioning this again. Okay, so Aurora's talk about Hemingway. I know you all don't know this. This is my job, so it's okay, and it's okay with Colin too. But specifically, Sherman Alexie, who is very important for a lot of reasons, has had a really bad few years. And I don't mean that like he's ill. I mean, he's naughty, he's done dumb things, and has been essentially his professional life is over. I mean, he's done. And that's important for a lot of reasons. Now, I don't see that mentioned on Colin's PowerPoint. Colin, if I may ask, I know I'm only doing this for you. This is no offense to Colin. Colin, when you were pulling information about Sherman Alexie, did you happen to pull off of his website or off of someplace else? Can you, for like 5 seconds or 10 seconds, say where you got the information from? Do you mind sharing that, please?
I got most of it from Wikipedia.
Okay. Did you at any time look at his website?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay. So, and I'm glad you said that, because in case you guys didn't know this is like one of those times where, like, I don't care about Wikipedia, but Mrs. Lundquist, she's like somewhere she's twitching when I say that, because she's like, Wikipedia. And she's not wrong. Wikipedia is not great, but Wikipedia often is modified, adjusted, cultivated. That's actually a term they use for it, by people that are, I guess, friendly to Sherman Alexie. And I'm just going to mention this now. Sherman Alexie, in essence, he's a famous Native American author. He's not a terrible looking guy, although he's older now, so none of you should find him attractive. But lots of women do or have. And Sherman Alexie got caught, in essence, going to book signings and interviews with people, and then basically sleeping with every woman that was within a 2-block radius. And that happened. And so what happened was, in some cases, and so people are consenting adults, they can do whatever. As far as I know, he's never accused of rape. However, in some cases, you'd have a woman. As far as I know, it was only women. I heard of nothing that deals with men. A woman would say, hey, you're Sherman Alexie. It's great to meet you. I love your stuff. Can you take a look at a piece of writing I did? And he would say, sure. And then they start drinking, and that's how things go. In essence, the argument was he was leveraging his ability or his fame as a writer to sleep with women. So in other words, he was like a position of power. He is won many awards, position of power versus women who don't have that power, right? They're not famous authors. And so it got so bad that Sherman Alexie ultimately, by the way, he's married. He's still married today. So his wife never left him, which whatever, that you make those choices on your own. But there was an award named for him, for a Native American author, for creative writing, and there was a Sherman Alexie Award. They had to take the name off of it. They had to just name it like a Native American author award. Put it this way, every time he's called to do something to talk, or it used to be in the past, if they ever wanted to talk about Native American issues, they'd roll Sherman Alexie out, and he spoke well, and he's, again, not a bad looking guy. He's a great speaker, great author. Now he's like in a cave someplace. I truly don't know where he is, but I asked Colin that question because if you go to his website, at least as of a few weeks ago, and a lot of other very friendly places to him, none of these accusations are mentioned. It's like they didn't happen. Everyone knows them, but he's really been very obstinate. He's refusing to admit that he was naughty and that he got caught for being naughty. So, and I didn't see any of that on Colin's presentation. In fact, while he's speaking, I'm going to time it, obviously. While he's speaking, I'm going to pull up the Wikipedia to see what it has for mentions of his behavior, because it's a big deal. And it's very upsetting. It's like if you're Native American, and there are other Native American authors, obviously, Native Americans have a rich literary as well as artistic history. You should know this by now. It set the entire Native American movement back a fair amount, because you had people saying he's our number one guy and he let us down. Furthermore, he also writes, and I didn't see this in Colin's, I'm going to stop talking so I don't take away from Colin, but a lot of his stuff deals with Native Americans who have drinking problems or have drug problems. Another thing that Native Americans kind of got frustrated with, they'd say, hey, buddy, we're more than just a bunch of drug people. We're more than just people that do bad things and all that type of stuff. So in a lot of ways, Sherman Alexie's kind of hurt the Native American people. That's out of their words. So I'm going to stop talking. Colin, are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, Colin, I'm going to stop talking, and we have you on the network, so we should all be able to hear you just fine. Whenever you're ready, go ahead.
My story was Flight Patterns by Sherman Alexie. A little about my author was Sherman Alexie was born October 7th, 1966 in Spokane, Washington. He grew up on the Spokane Indian Reservation, which led to him finding inspiration for his works through his Native American heritage. As a child, he was bullied, so he had few friends, which led to him spending most of his time studying. Because of this, he had a lot of academic success and was given a scholarship to Gonzaga, which led to him feeling pressure to do good in school. The pressure is what led to him to start abusing alcohol for comfort, but later found literature classes to comfort him. His first published work, The Business of Fancy Dancing, was released in 1992. In 1993, he released his most famous book, The Lone Ranger and Tonto Fistfight in Heaven, which became a movie in 1998. Today, he runs a nonprofit organization that teaches filmmaking to young Native Americans. Some of his popular works are The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, Smoke Signals, The Lone Ranger and Tonto Fistfight in Heaven, You Don't Have to Say You Love Me, and Reservation Blues. A summary about my story was, the story starts off when a Native American man named William wakes up to get ready to leave for a work-related trip. His wife tries to get him to stay and cancel his flight, but he finally convinces her and leaves for his flight. He is picked up by a taxi driver who is from Ethiopia. At the beginning of his ride, he tries not to talk to the driver because he is trying to get mentally prepared to fly on a plane, because the recent terror attacks have made him terrified of planes. But as they start talking, the driver brings up that he studied physics at Oxford. William doesn't believe it at first, but the driver goes on to tell his story about why he had to move to America. He says that an Ethiopian ruler named Selassie sent him to study at Oxford to become the best possible fighter pilot. And after the driver had killed many of his own people as a pilot, he realized that he couldn't do it anymore. So he stole a fighter jet and left his family so he could escape all the terror he had caused. At the end, William wishes that he could spend more time with the driver so he could hear more of his stories. The literary elements of my story, I saw symbolism. Throughout the story, Sherman shows symbolism to show that people are being labeled on the way they appear. In the beginning of the story, his Native American daughter says she doesn't want to have any hair, rather she wants to be a leaf a little kid picks up and keeps in a scrapbook. This shows symbolism because it says Grace doesn't want to be symbolized as a girl, but as a leaf. Since this story is based right after 9/11, people with darker skin and dark hair would usually be labeled as a Middle Easterner or a terrorist. Since they are Native American, they have darker skin and darker hair. So Grace would rather be a peaceful leaf floating in the wind than thought of as a terrorist. William, and then another one is William says that people in airports tend to look around for the little brown man who smells of fundamentalism. This shows symbolism because people think all brown people symbolize a terrorist who is going to harm them. All right, that's all I have.
Okay, so let me pause it there. So you're fine on time. First, I want to give an opportunity to ask questions if you have any. That's where we can begin. And then I have other things to say, and then we'll be done with that and move on to the other person. I do want to mention before we start that yesterday with the juniors, I should have recorded it. We had a really good class discussion about the end of the Scarlet Letter. You all read that? We're supposed to read it. In any case, it's not, I'm just bringing it up because I do think with our next book, we'll be able to have some more discussion. I think people are still hesitant to speak to each other or about each other's stuff for these short stories. So any questions about Sherman Alexie's flight patterns? And it's fine if you don't. I see nobody unmuting. I think the connections there about 9/11, I know that you guys weren't really like around for that. I know you've seen some of it, but it's not quite the same as living it. It is interesting both with the Ethiopian. Oh, Colin, do you have something or not? I saw you unmuted.
No, that was an accident.
Okay. I know that we can talk about 9/11 and things like that, but both being African American or African, which is Ethiopia, or being Native American, darker skin. I mean, we're a little bit past that, but it's still something where people that have dark skin are still discriminated against. We know this is not a surprise. I just wanted to show you, I can show this to everybody. If you go to the Wikipedia page, and of course I'm on my iPad, so you'd see this mobile too. Here's Sherman Alexie's page, right? So this is a really long page, and here's the length. You can see it. You don't have to read it. You can read it on your own. The length of his section on the sexual harassment allegations. So you can see it there, right? You don't have to read it. You see the size of it. So it's about that long. I'll zoom in a bit if you can see it. Is it all? Oh, did it switch? No, it didn't. There we go. You can see about how long that section is. This is how long the section is for that. But this thing goes on. It keeps on going, keeps on going, keeps on going, keeps on going. It's a really long entry. And I mean, you can read it, but the sexual assault allegations are kind of buried in the middle, which is weird. I also, however, want to mention, like, you would talk about Me Too stuff and how the way these allegations have played out. He has done nothing since the allegations came out. They were going to publish a book of his in paperback. That's out the window. As far as I can see, he's not working. He has nothing going on. There's no works published. If I had to guess, the next thing he's going to publish is going to be some sort of a memoir, like an apology of his bad behavior. But the guy is basically like he's disappeared, like he's not doing anything. So, but Flight Patterns is really a 9/11 sort of story. Any questions or anything else before we go to Maddie, and then we can call it a day, and then it can leave some time to talk to people about essays if they have them. Any other questions? Maddie's also remote, so the same sort of deal. And Maddie, you said you shared it 15 minutes ago. I should probably look because
Yeah, I think it's on there.
it is okay. I know when I did this, I didn't see it, but I'll look again right now. Make sure that I have it there too. Yep. All right, Maddie, I'm wrong. It's right there. So let me reset this. Maddie, are
Okay.
you ready?
Yeah, is it like really muffled, like with where I am? Like, do you want me to go outside or can you hear me fine?
No, I hear you.
Okay.
We hear you fine, and if no one's unmuting to say otherwise, as long as nothing weird happens in the background. By the way, Erin Manning did you know Erin's there with her? Did you see the picture of that, or you guys weren't into that?
She's getting food right now.
Oh, all right, never mind. I was gonna say she could. Yeah, so Erin can serve as your bodyguard, but unfortunately she's stuffing her face, so that's not going to help out.
Exactly.
So she could be there in case anybody comes around and gives you the business. And tell Erin the person that is like harassing you has some essential oils in their pocket, and she'll like
Okay.
tap them to get the essential oils from them. It's like a leprechaun and the Lucky Charms. That's what that is.
Yeah.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah, actually, wait 1 second. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
good.
ready. Okay. My story is A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. It was written by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Gabriel Marquez was a Colombian novelist, short story writer, screenwriter, and journalist. He was considered one of the most significant authors of the 20th century and was awarded the 1972 International Prize for Literature and the 1982 Nobel Prize in Literature. He then pursued a self-directed education that resulted in leaving law school for a career in journalism. And in 1958, he married Mercedes Barcha, I think you say it. They had 2 sons together, Rodrigo and Gonzalo. Gabriel Marquez died of pneumonia at age 87 on April 17th in 2014 in Mexico City. At the time of his death, he was still married to Mercedes, and they still had their 2 sons together. A summary of the story, A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. It begins with the author explaining how Paleo was killing loads of crabs that were inside the house due to a rainstorm that had lasted for several days where they lived. They thought the stench of the crabs was making their newborn child ill. Therefore, Paleo spent his time cleaning them all out of the house. On his way back to the house from disposing of the crabs, he noticed an old man that was lying face down in the mud. The old man was filthy and apparently senile. After consulting a neighbor woman, Paleo and his wife, Elisenda, conclude that the old man must be an angel who had tried to come and take their sick child to heaven. I think that kind of represents their faith throughout the story too. The supposed angel then begins to attract curious people from both near and far away. The crowd eventually grows so large, Elisenda starts charging admission, realizing that she can make quite a big profit from all the people that wanted to come and see the angel. However, people soon start to disperse when the news of a woman who had transferred into a giant tarantula starts to spread throughout the town. People quickly forget about the old man and start to indulge in the story of the woman instead. Paleo and Elisenda had grown quite wealthy from the admission fees, and they then decided to build a 2-story mansion with all the money that they had made. The angel unexpectedly regains his strength after spending years in the chicken coop still with Paleo and his wife and the baby. His feathers grow back and he begins to sing sailor songs again. One day, the old man stretches his wings and takes off into the air. Elisenda watches him disappear over the horizon. Some literary elements that are apparent throughout the story. Symbolism, I think, is shown and represented throughout the whole story in different ways. One aspect is the wings on the angel. In this story, the wings convey a sense of sickness and age. Although the old man's wings are torn and dirty, they still are magical and hold enough power to attract a crowd and all the other people that are coming to see him. He does not represent what a typical Christian perceives an angel to be like, which is another representation of their faith. I think the author uses the Spider Woman to symbolize the human attraction to truth and lessons, no matter how unbelievable the story may be. Being that this angel appeared in the mud and everybody just believed it, I think shows that people are just impulsive and will believe anything. By the people being drawn away from the so-called angel with no questions asked to go see the tarantula woman, the author implies that people are impulsive and will pay attention to anything. And that's it, I think.
Okay, first, anyone have questions for Maddie? I have a couple things I can add and go through, but I'd like to see if anyone has questions first. Nobody here has a hand up, and nobody there is unmuting. Okay, a couple quick things. First of all, I agree with, let me turn my camera back on. I agree with Maddie's stuff. I like, by the way, I don't know that anybody else has done this in a presentation. When Maddie was talking about the summary of the story, and she kind of, and it's not on her slide, so it's great, by the way, when you don't just read slides. Maddie kind of stopped in the middle and she goes, oh, I think this represents their faith. So in the middle of everything she was saying, she added that piece, and then she referred to it in that last slide too. So Maddie, I think that was a good thing to do. I want to slightly disagree with one thing, and this isn't really, Maddie did something wrong, but the idea of like, okay, so the angels all filthy and dirty and everything, and that's not necessarily what we think angels are. But don't forget, and I'll connect this further in just a second, don't forget what Jesus repeatedly, if you believe in Jesus, if you go to church and all that stuff, I would say even Muhammad, we don't have any Muslims here, but it's the same thing. Jesus was repeatedly treated as or viewed like a beggar, and suffered greatly in lots of different parts of his life. And so even when he's heading to his crucifixion, and he's just being bombarded on all sides by the way that people are yelling things at him and throwing things at him. So the idea of somebody that is, an angel is one of the highest things. By the way, not all faiths believe in angels, or they don't consider them to be as important. But the idea of there being angels, like maybe it's like Jesus and something that, this person is just kind of being harassed and treated poorly, which, by the way, when everyone's going to see the angel, paying admission money to see the angel, that's not what you're supposed to do with angels, right? You don't put them like on display in a cage. Angels are something that are meant to be special and worthwhile. It's like sadly, whenever a child dies, they'll say something about, oh, it's heaven just got another angel. We have this idea that angels are so valuable and so important, right? But again, Jesus, we feel the same way about Jesus, but Jesus was definitely treated poorly a bunch of different ways. Aurora has her hand up. I want to make one concluding point. I want to tell you about our final for all the short stories and go from there. But Aurora, go ahead.
Also, the fact that the guy is like expected to give all the people these great and wonderful miracles, which is sort of similar to Jesus. Like people would come to see him, and they would expect miracles from him.
That's a great point. If you could not hear Aurora, she says, all the people coming to see this angel and expecting miracles, which is very much like what happened with Jesus. And again, I go back to the crucifixion. He was taunted repeatedly while he's headed to the crucifixion and on the cross. So he's nailed to the cross, and people are saying, come on, Jesus, I thought you were this like great guy. Why can't you save yourself? Do a miracle. You should be able to get yourself off. And of course, that's not what it was about. So last thing to say about the story for me is that if right now, like forget about what we would think, if Jesus came back to earth right now, or another savior, and suddenly Jesus is walking the earth, how would we know? Would we believe him or her, assuming that Jesus could come back in a different gender? Would we believe that? And how would it be? So if right now on the news today, there was breaking news that there's an individual somewhere, I don't care where it is, could be in America, could be Europe, anywhere, said, hey, this person is claiming to be Jesus Christ. That's happened. People will claim every now and then to be Jesus Christ. We think they're crazy. We put them in a little box and lock them away and get rid of the key. What if Jesus really came back? How would we view Jesus? How would we treat Jesus? How would we believe it? Because people wouldn't believe it. Would they take Jesus and stuff Jesus in a box again and charge admission to see Jesus and say, hey, we're hungry. We've got one loaf of bread. Give us a whole bunch of loaves of bread, dude. Come on. You're Jesus. Why aren't you doing this? So I think that's kind of where our author is going with the story. I think so as much as we're like reality TV, and by the way, this story is so old, it's way before reality TV became a thing. But the idea of there being an impulsive nature is a great catch by Maddie, I think, because we do that. But how long we'd be occupied with this new weird Jesus we stuffed in a cage, how long before we ignored him and then started to pay attention to some other person claiming to be whoever or whatever. I mean, we would do that. I mean, that's what society does. So, and I hate to say that, but it's just kind of how things are. You had your hand up. Did you put it down, or are you still keeping your hand up?
No, I guess I was just going to say that, like, we'd probably think that he was some sort of devilish con and was people in today's society are really kind of not willing to believe that stuff
Right.
because of all the bad happenings going on right now.
Right. Well, and if you, again, if you didn't hear Aurora, the idea of like, we probably wouldn't really believe it, which is true. And then the bad things happening. And again, don't forget, like, even as Jesus died, and Muhammad was the same way, mentioned both of them, even as Jesus died, he's telling God, forgive them. They don't know what they do. They don't know what they're doing. So, I think it'd be somewhat similar now. So I'm going to be done on this unless we have any more questions, with about 11, 12 minutes left in class. Quickly, here's the actual final structure of the short story final, which is going to be next Wednesday, the 21st. So a week from today is the short story final. Number one, we'll start. I told you I'm going to grab some goofball in the hallway and just get a number out of them. And then that's how it's going to go. So if the student says number one, alphabetically, Caleb would then get the first short story in order. And that would be the story that he has to talk about. And that's the story that everyone talks about. It's totally randomized. My short stories are included, yes. So that means a few won't be chosen, but that's just luck of the draw. So everyone is going to get a short story, randomly selected, and you'll have to talk about what that short story is. Number one. Number two, you'll have the opportunity to select a different short story. Many of you will probably choose something that you have done yourself, and you'll have to give some detail and some examples about what that short story was and different things like literary terms and all that stuff. Finally, using two or three other short stories. So you'll have to probably write about 4 or 5 short stories total. You'll have to make connections between other short stories and talk about what they share. So I've helped you with that a little bit. Remember that I grouped these short stories by whether they were important American authors, or they were about women, or we had some science fiction stuff, or whatever else. You'll have to make connections among short stories too, based on your knowledge of them. So you'll have to know 4 or 5 better than the other ones. As I said, I don't know what that first one's going to be. It's totally luck of the draw. And we'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll grab like an adult. I don't know. We'll figure out who it is. Is there somebody that I should like have come to make this decision, or you guys don't care? Should I make like Pav make the long walk? Because that's always amusing, getting him up here, because it's stairs, just, these old people, it's just hard for them. So, all right. Any questions about the test? Oh yeah, no, you cannot use your book. Thank you. No book, no notes. This is all off of the memory. What else? Something else along those lines too. Yeah. So you have to, and by the way, it's all going to be virtual. In other words, you'll be submitting this to me in a Google Doc. I know some of you will be here, some of you won't. It's just what it is. I don't want to take 2 days to do this. I want to get it done on the 21st. So I don't even know. I haven't even done the math on that, who's here and who's not here. Aurora has another question. Go ahead, Aurora.
So the first one's going to be random.
Yep.
And the other 4 or 5 we can choose.
You'll have some selection, but again, keep in mind, if you were like, oh, I'm ready, I'm going to talk about that one story, but that story is accidentally now off the list because you got it randomly selected, then you'll have to be prepared to use a different story, right? So the great thing would be for all of you to know all the short stories. That would be the best strategy for everybody. Right, Owen? Wouldn't that be the best, Owen? Owen apparently is dead. Owen, yeah, he's here. All right. Owen is probably still playing Minecraft in the back. Look, I'm done. So 8 minutes left. I'm going to do the following. If anyone has a question about the essay due today, this evening, midnight, you know how that goes. This is the 500-word essay. So if anybody virtually has a question about that, now's the time to ask. As I said, when we get into the 251 too, I'll spend some time giving you a chance to ask questions if you need to. There is a different structure for these next 2 essays. The one today is still 3 parts. The one next week is just 1 part. We're going to really seize upon one item that you have there, so we can make sure that we focus on that. And that's kind of done. And Izzy walks in. Good thing I recorded the whole thing as we're closing. Virtually, any questions about today's essay? Last chance before we end the meeting. Again, we are recording it. I will be able to provide that in a second. I see Maddie. Well, Maddie unmuted, then she muted.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. Maddie and Emily. So here's what I'm going to do. I will not end the meeting. All of you virtual people can go. I'm going to unplug so that, and I'll put in my earbuds so it's a conversation just between you and I. Anyone here have questions? No. No, you did not miss that. No. No, because I'm still, some of the juniors and one senior apparently are not all set up. Mr. Simmons is doing the PSAT today, so I know he has not had a chance to solve that. So it's okay for right now. All right, so Maddie and Emily, nobody here has a question. All right, I'll go Maddie and then Emily in that order. And give me a second. Everyone else can leave. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you later.
Okay. Can I like ask the question? Okay.
All right, I've unmuted and I'm plugged in and I could, Maddie, could you say something? I just want to make sure I can hear you.
Hello?
Okay, also note, because this is still the same Zoom, it's still recording, so just be mindful of that as we're talking. Go ahead, what's your question?
So on the 750 word essay was the one that you left the comments, right? Like you left.
It's the one that was due last week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so go ahead.
I could see my comments at first, like I just looked over them, and then when I went to like fix them, like resolve the comments each one and fix what you said,
Yes.
I can't see them anymore.
That's correct, because you've resolved them. So that's the way that Google Documents
Oh,
works.
but like I didn't resolve them yet.
Oh,
Like,
I don't know. I have not touched them.
Okay, so I can't see, like I can't fix any of the things because I don't remember what they were.
Okay,
I mean,
so
like, I redid it and it's down to 500 words now, but like I still can't see the comments.
okay, so let me take a step back. So I have not yet made comments on 1.3. So if you're talking about the final submission for 1.3, I've made no comments on that. If you're talking about 1.2, which might be what you're talking about, are you talking about the one? Okay, so let me look at that right now. I know when you resolve them, they're gone. I thought I got a notification from you that you resolved them, but let me take a look.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Actually, let me look in my email. Let's see, I thought I had vision solution. Let me see here. Okay, yeah, I don't have. Yeah, I don't have an email that you resolve the comments.
Yeah.
So let me look again. See what we have here.
I don't know.
Okay, so I'm letting it load here. Okay, I'm looking and I don't see comments either. So I don't have, well, let me see if the history says. Return draft grade on the 30th. Maddie, the best I can do, and this doesn't help you immediately, but the best I can do is ask downstairs with tech, because I see that I gave comments back on September 30th.
Yeah.
I feel like, first of all, I wrote their comments, so I feel like there were some, and I don't know if when I return it, I mean, you should still be able to see them, but if you've opened it and if you've saved it someplace else, like, in fact, Alexis just logged off. I was hoping she'd stay. Alexis, if you remember, she couldn't find her essay.
Yeah, she found it. Yeah.
And then she found it. And in fact, I asked her, I'm like, how did you find it? So I still don't have an answer for that. So I'm unaware of there being a wonky problem with Google Docs. So if you feel like you need, I'm looking at, because I would have written some individual things,
Right.
and I don't see any like comments in there, so all I could think of it might have been, I'm just gonna quickly go through this right now. I think it would have been like maybe some like comma and grammar stuff, maybe?
Yeah, that's usually what it is.
Um,
I don't know. I just can't see anything.
yeah, no, well, there's no comments there now. I'm just quickly looking through this to see if I missed something or if there's something.
Yeah.
I think, okay, so looking at this now, and I vaguely remember this, there's some spots where you didn't capitalize the letter I. I mean, that's not a huge deal. But I think my overall question for you would have been, because even looking at it now, I don't see it. How does that essay, how does that help you get into college?
Or,
Yeah, so I'm reading it and it makes perfect sense. It's a good story and you're talking about your grandma and I got it. But how, I think that last paragraph, and I know Emily's still on here because Emily had to do this too. Your last paragraph, we really need to strengthen like what are you telling a college? Like what am I getting from Maddie that,
so
go ahead.
is the 1.2 the 750 words, right? Or is that the first 500?
I think that was the first 500.
Okay, so yeah, because in the 750 words, I added a lot more in about me in the last paragraph.
Oh, then okay.
So I think I fixed it in there, but then again, I can't.
Well, then I wonder if all I can think of is, and I don't have an answer for this because I know students are resolving comments I give. So I understand that, but I don't know if, like, for all I know, you resolve them. I didn't get a notification. You might have shared it differently. And once you resolve them, they're gone. So you're like, oh, hey, I did this and it's gone. I definitely don't have a notification. So you're telling me you never saw those comments ever?
No.
Okay. I don't have an easy answer for you. If you need more from me before you submit the final today, let me know and we can figure something out because I do want your best work.
Okay.
But let me know what you think and again, preferably during the day so I can help you out.
All right. Okay.
Thank you. And Emily, don't leave. Have a good day, people. Goodbye. The bell rang. They're leaving. Bye-bye now. All right. Hi, Emily. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Okay, don't forget we're still recording. What's up?
So for like our presentations, I'm like finishing that up today to send to you.
Great.
But for like for the part that I did about my author, I just went onto Margaret's page on the internet.
This is the
And
house for wolves. Is this the house for wolves?
No,
Which one is your Margaret Atwood story?
the
Lucis Nostra?
Yeah, the
Okay, this is the
Lucas
werewolf
Nature
story.
or whatever.
Yeah, it's the werewolf story.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I think. Well, I read it, but it didn't seem like werewolves. It's about like the daughter dying because she has like this disease.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. So what's your question? I'm sorry. I'm going to find it.
So should I use like her page and take her biography from her page, or should I use Wikipedia? Because I've already wrote stuff off her page, but then like other people used Wikipedia.
I'm going to tell you right now. Again, it wasn't so much that you needed to find, like, for your year-end paper, you have to actually, thank you. For your year-end paper, you have to actually use a biography. You know this because you have to track one down. For this, you didn't have to do any of that type of stuff. And I would say for what I remember reading from Atwood or about Atwood is that her stuff is generally okay. Meaning like it's not filled with lies and stuff like that because she really doesn't care. Like, I don't mean that negatively. She doesn't care what people think about her. She really never has. So she's all about kind of just, saying what it is and just it being what it is. So give me a second. I'm trying to find, I can find the page. There it is, 240. I'm like trying to do two things at once. I'm sorry about that. So, okay, so if I'm just as an example, and maybe you have a different take on this, which is fine. So the last page of it, which is on 244, actually. So when she says stuff like, just making sure there's not another one to talk about there. So she dies, right? I mean, it talks repeatedly about how she dies. She's talking about how, I know I just told you to go to 242, but on 242, it was decided that I should die. That way I would not stand in the way of my sister. I would not loom over her like a fate. And now further down on 242, now that I was dead, I was freer. So, and then on 244,
Yeah.
so she's dead. Where the heck is it? I just had it. I detached myself from the brambles and came softly toward him. There he was, asleep in an oval of crushed grass, as if laid out on a platter. I'm sorry to say I lost control. I laid my red-nailed hands on him. I bit him on the neck. Was it lust or hunger? How could I tell the difference? He woke up. He saw my pink teeth, my yellow eyes. He saw my black dress fluttering. He saw me running away. He saw where? He told the others in the village. They dug up my coffin, found it empty. So she's dead, and then she now like bites some guy, right? So there's.
So she's coming back,
Say again.
kind of. She's
I
like
didn't
kind of coming back as kind of a ghost or something. Is that what it's saying?
All right. Well, okay. So what do we know? And there's several ways to look at. There's two levels of the story, and I don't want to tell you too much because first of all, I would have helped anybody, but you're the first one actually talking to me. You're the first one talking to me about their story ahead of time. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Well, yeah, because I just didn't know about the author page. That's like the only thing I was worried about because I haven't done like my full summary yet. I have an idea of what I'm gonna write, but I haven't done the full thing. So the main thing I was concerned about was like the author page, like when I first talk about her, if I should use Wikipedia or not.
Okay. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. You can use Wikipedia. You can use her author page. As I said, she doesn't really care what people think about her. So I think what you're going to see on her page is probably appropriate. It's probably, not misleading information. We just talked about Sherman Alexie today, who still on his website is like, I'm this great guy, when everyone in the world is like, you're kind of a scumbag, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I've looked at Wikipedia and some of the stuff's different than what she has on her page.
Oh yeah,
So
you'll
I was
have some
just gonna
differences.
use what I had from.
That's totally fine. Yep.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what do you know
All right.
about horror stories, about frightening stories? What sort of animal, what sort of person bites other stuff on the neck?
Zombie maybe? I don't know. I don't watch horror stuff.
Okay. So there's two things you should take a look at. Number one, focus, because I did put this together with like horror or sci-fi, right? Because it's also right after the St. Lucy's Home for Girls Raised by Wolves, so that they're near each other. So pay attention to that, and then also pay attention. Now, remember you chose the other Margaret Atwood story, and then I said take a look at it, and you were like, no. But then you chose another Margaret Atwood story. How come you chose a second Margaret Atwood story?
I don't know. I just chose a story because you said
Okay.
I needed a different one. Because after I looked at that, I knew I wasn't going to be comfortable with it, so I just chose.
I'm going to suggest that there are things here, and I'm not telling you what to do, and you can ignore it. I mean, I don't mind covering it myself if you don't want to, but there's also some stuff going on in this story that it's not the same, different subject area. You don't see the profanity, right? I mean, you don't see that stuff. We don't see like the specific, like adult sort of behavior, like in Happy Endings, right? But I want to just caution you that there is still like adult stuff in the story though.
Okay.
So you don't have to, first of all, if you didn't see it, fine. I'm not telling you to go look for it, but I'm telling you it's there. And if you're not comfortable talking about it, I will. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But like I said, I just want to make sure you're catching some of the things happening there, because there is a lot happening in this story, like all of our short stories, right? Yes, no? Oh, you froze and I might have lost you. Are you there? I might have lost you.
All right. I think that's all then.
Okay. Have a good day, right?
You too.
Be nice to Cassie.
Yep.
Be nice to Jess.
I will.
Definitely be nice to your mom, because she has to put up with all three of you. Okay. All right. We'll see you later, and take care.
Bye.
Bye.